notification up and running.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my local business spotlight. You all know me. I'm Jean Humbrecht, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. And it is Wednesday, so it is time for our local business spotlights. I have a very special guest today, Mark Sweeney of Mark Sweeney Advisors. And I asked Mark to come on the show specifically this month because it is National Financial Literacy Month. And Mark is going to provide us with a lot of interesting, helpful, and possibly scary information if we are not watching our finances, but I digress. Mark witnessed firsthand what can happen to family and friends who do not prepare properly in their financial lives. This experience steered him away from a 20-year career in IT telecommunications and into a career in financial services. Mark held senior leadership positions in business development and management with AT&T, Verizon, GTSI, and others. He believes that there is a huge need for financial professionals with hands-on experience, and that is what he brings to his practice and clients. He focuses on uncomplicating the complicated to make sure you don't run out of money before you run out of time. Very important. It's his job to help you make the important choices necessary to perpetuate your family's history and sustain a legacy well into the future. No matter where you are in life, just starting out, providing for a family, or planning for retirement, having a clear financial path can help give you confidence for the future. So let's create a strategy that can help you meet your goals and overcome your challenges. I said a lot of big words in that description that probably are concerning. Mark, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about exactly what it is that you do? Because when someone hears someone is a financial advisor or works in the financial industry, that can range. It can go across a huge range. So why don't you tell people specifically about what it is specifically that you do, and then how you came to start your own business?
Yeah, so great question, because it is a big range, and it kind of gets scary with lots of different things in it. So where we focus is really on financial planning. So there's lots of different things out there where you can buy stocks, bonds. Everybody's heard about Bitcoin, all those different things you can buy right now. And there's financial advisors, and then there's planners, and those two names get bounced around a little bit. But basically if you kind of peel the onion all the way back, what we do is we help you put in a roadmap from where you are today to where you want to go. And we try to build in some buffers in there because there's going to be bumps in the road. It's really hard to have to make a straight road from here to the future because all kinds of things are coming in. So we prepare you for things in advance of what you can see. So where your money's positioned, how it's going to grow, what it's going to be used for, so that you anticipate those things coming up. Because, we know when we're born, we know we're going to go out somewhere. We just don't know when. And if you take a birth certificate and you look on the back, there's no expiration date. We know it's going to happen, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, but so you're ready for it. Mm-hmm. And the big thing that we see when we're taking away is we take the emotional side out of the equation, because here in Northern Virginia, we're all running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Compared to New York, San Francisco, LA, probably here we're like we're always on the go, and we're usually helping other people, and we never get a chance to take care of ourselves. So on the financial side, that's where we work to help you take 3 steps back so you can take care of yourself, so the money's taken care of, so it's optimized, really organized, and then directed so that you can focus on the things that are important. Because if you're focusing on the money and you get all emotional about the money, and we see lots of people that do, the money doesn't have any emotion. It could care less. But people get bent around the axle about finances because it's kind of, Gene, it's kind of like your profession, and we have our own language inside of it. And so if you're speaking legalese or we're speaking finance, sometimes that's a foreign language for other people. And we really try to make that simple, because the industry tries to make it very hard. But at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be as hard as the industry makes it. Because, so that people can tell us, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's where I'm going, here's why I'm doing what I do. And I can tell that to somebody else and I understand it.
Okay. So I think a lot of people, I'm sure know more than I do. A lot of people probably don't like talking about money for who knows why? Maybe it's embarrassing. I don't know. Like a lot of people don't like dealing with end of life documents, wills, living trusts, things like that. So how would you suggest that people, you know, power through that? Because if we don't talk about money, then we're never going to be talking to somebody like you to help us plan for the future.
And it's kind of like, it's just this crazy analogy, but it's kind of like if you go to your doctors, you know, some doctors will sit and talk to you and ask you lots of questions, and they really have a good bedside manner. Some of them don't. We really try to have that really good bedside manner so it's comfortable to open up. And when we talk with you, we try to separate you and your money, in that we want to learn about you, what's important to you, what your goals are, why you're doing what you're doing, and more importantly, where you came from to get where you are. So what did your family think about money when you were growing up? What was your first memory of money as a kid? What does money mean to you? And what does it really mean to you? Not when you just give a quick answer, oh, I need money so I can go to the grocery store and do things. Now, what does it mean personally to you? And we can really develop some goals that have some meat around them, not just, hey, I want to retire when I'm 60. No, why, where, how, what does it want to look like? What do you feel like? And then we bring the money back in so that you can look at it. So the good thing is that it's an easy conversation to have a conversation. So when people sit down, first, we don't want you to bring a checkbook. We don't want you to bring any of your financial statements. Let's sit down and just have a conversation. Is there a way that we can work together that seems like there's going to be a trust? Because most of our clients are very long-term, that we're with them many years down the road, there to help them and ask questions. So don't be afraid of talking to a financial advisor. Sit down and ask with them and talk with them just like you would anybody else. And if you're not comfortable there, then get up and leave and get out. You know, it's like if you go to the doctor, if you're not comfortable talking to your doctor about something, you probably don't want to be working with that doctor.
Yeah. It's like any professional. I say that with attorneys too. You need to be able to trust your attorney and feel comfortable with them, because they might be a great attorney, but not everybody's the right fit for you.
Yeah, and the bedside manner, you know, of it is important. You know, I think it is, because, you know, there's some great financial people that have terrible bedside managers, like there are attorneys and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they might be the person that works on the back end of things for you, but you want somebody you can trust up front that's kind of driving the bus for you. And they bring those people to you, and you know, okay, I don't have to interface with them all the time. They might be back here fixing stuff with me, but I've got somebody in front that I know I can talk to and trust that's going to make sure it happens.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say to somebody that says, I don't need to talk to a financial planner because I don't have any money. I don't have enough in savings. I can't afford to invest. Social Security will be there. I don't need to. What would you say to somebody who's in that situation? Because I mean, you know, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. So, you know, why should they talk to somebody who does what you do?
And actually, that's a great question, because just because you don't have a lot of money doesn't mean you shouldn't have a financial advisor you work with, because that roadmap in place that you put in, it may have budgeting issues. It may have work optimization issues in there. It may be where we sit down and look at, hey, you're working, what are the benefits you have at work? We make sure you're maximizing your benefits. You know, we don't set a threshold for, you know, you got to have $1 million or we won't talk to you. And you'll find plenty of people that in this field that do that.
Right.
You know, usually they've got all kinds of different things in there. And we won't go into that today. But you need a roadmap of how you're going to get to where you're going to get, one way or another. So you think if you're on the phone and you use Waze, you know, if you're in a Mercedes, you use it, or if you're in a Chevy or a Ford, you're going to may have Waze, and you think of that for your finances. And the map, when you put it in place, is going to take you, project you down the road, and how much is that going to be worth to you over your lifetime? You know, simple things of, you know, if you can, you know, figure out how do I refinance my house? Oh, I just saved 3% on refinancing my house, and that was a big part of my financial plan. And now you got thousands of dollars you didn't think you had before.
Mm-hmm.
Or you go, oh, my 401k at work, let's figure out if we need to reallocate that another way. Well, all of a sudden your 401k is earning more than it was before.
Hmm.
Or we'll figure out, what are you doing on taxes? Because a lot of people will use, it's tax time. A lot of people doing taxes. Usually they're just filing them and sending them off. Well, have you figured out do you work with somebody that can help you look at the tax laws to figure out how to benefit yourself the most on the tax laws?
Hmm.
And you look forward because, we've got the couple things in front of Congress right now that seem complicated. Um, the infrastructure bill, Sanders has another bill that's out there. Those are going to impact taxes down the road because somebody's going to end up paying for it. They're probably going to pass in some form. And who's going to pay for that? All of us. The big companies and ultra wealthy are going to figure out ways to get around it, and it's going to be the regular folks that are going to be. There's less money in the paycheck.
Hmm.
Okay, well, how do we prepare for that, and how do we navigate through that?
Hmm.
And the other thing I think, which is important to talk to us, is that emotional side that I mentioned earlier. If we can take the emotion down when it comes to the money, people make better decisions. Because as humans, we usually make decisions based on emotion instead of facts. And if you have a financial person or an attorney in your corner and you're making decisions on facts instead of emotions, usually the decisions are a lot better
Hmm.
for yourself and those around you. And if you're making emotional decisions, most of those times you find out why the decision you made probably wasn't the best you could have done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a situation where I'll say angry. You're really angry about something or upset about something. So before sending that email, you step back and think, okay, I'll reply to this in a few days, cool off, think about how you're going to say it in the perfect legal way so that you don't get yourself into trouble. But yeah, I know what you mean, because if you just react based on your emotions, then you might regret it.
And you think right now you see all these things about cyber currency that are going on out there. And they even talk about it in the news that it's a mania. Well, there's some people going to get very wealthy with cyber currency. There's no doubt about it. But on your tax returns, if you're invested in it right now, there's a little box that says the IRS is asking you right now because they can't regulate it. Are you invested in Bitcoin? There's a little $2. If you check that box, guess who's going to be looking at you in the future? They're going to be looking at you, and whether you have it or not, because they haven't figured out how to regulate it. They probably will figure out something under the Biden administration. In the U.S., there's a couple of applications before the SEC for Bitcoin ETFs or cyber currency ETFs, but they haven't passed yet. So they haven't been approved. So people have them in their portfolios, but the government can't regulate it. But people are getting in and they don't really know what they're getting into. They see lots of people making money, and some people they're making a lot of money out of it. But it's kind of like musical chairs when you were a kid. Do you have a seat when the music ends? Or do you not? So if you can afford to invest in it, it's a great place, but it's not for everybody. But that's an emotional thing. Most people getting into it are the emotions. They see the news going off and all kinds of things, and away they're going. We got to do this.
Mm-hmm. Before I get into my next question, I just wanted to tell everybody that's watching, if you have any questions for Mark, put them into the comment section, and I'll make sure I ask him while we have him here. So what I wanted to ask was, because I did not speak, I hate to admit it, but I did not speak with anybody in the financial industry for a very long time, only recently for the first time in my life. And I didn't really know what to expect. So can you tell people when they sit down with you, you said they don't bring their checkbook, but what happens during that first conversation? Because I think a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah. So with when you sit down with myself or my team, what we really do is we kind of look at a triangle. That one, does it make sense to work together? That's really what the meeting we're going to try to determine. So if it's a no on your side, just tell us no. If we can't help you, we're going to tell you the same thing. Or if there's somebody we can refer you to that after a meeting that might be better, because we have people that come in and we find out, gosh, they don't need to talk to me. They just need to go down and fix something at their local bank or something. But the first kind of meeting with us is we just have a conversation, get to know each other, and take a look at a broad overview of where you are today, what you're thinking about going, because we know there's not going to be might not be all the details wrapped around that. and kind of straw man what it might look like down the road. And we usually, it sounds kind of crazy, but most people know football. So we use a football field. You know, if you start at the end line at 0 when you were young, where are you on that continuum down to the other end of the football field when you're not here? You know, if you're at the 20-yard line, 30-yard line, 40-yard line, wherever it might be, what's going on there? And what would you like to have happen? And what would you like to know? So a lot of it's what we do is education too, because, you know, like in your field, the terms are nebulous. Sometimes, like, what the heck does that mean? We hear it a lot of it. We don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to make it real comforting and real easy so that they're comfortable and that money isn't a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, the banks and all the industry, they like to make it a mystery, and it isn't. It's just a means to be able to live life. You know, at the end of the day, what we want our clients to have is live their best life, and that money isn't a concern. So if we address it and take care of it, if it's, you know, learning how 401ks work, learning how stocks work, mutual funds, different finance things, you know, how they really work and what they mean, we do that.
Now, as part of what you do you talk about with your clients or potential clients about the whole financial picture? Like, for example, say someone is relatively young, no kids, looking to buy a house, has a little bit of money in retirement from when she worked for the government. You know,
we do. We try to make a look at the entire picture that they have from a financial snapshot and overlay that with their life, because the two are mixed. And if you're going to make a purchase decision, we build out a goal to get to that purchase decision, whether it's a new house, whether it's, you know, starting a business, whether it's running a business, because a lot of business owners are running businesses, but they don't work. They work in the business instead of on the business. We help them work on the business.
Okay.
And, you know, we bring in the experts that they need depending on where they are. So it might be, you know, bringing in a business attorney. It might be bringing in a state attorney. It might bring in, you know, especially this year, we brought in a couple of business bankers that we work with that have been focused on the PPP loans. Some of the big banks didn't do that. The smaller banks really focused on it. And those people would walk people through how the PPP loans work and really, really hold their hand on it. We don't hold the hand on it. We just make sure the other people are doing it for them. Mm-hmm. But we look at the whole big picture.
Okay.
Because
so
you can't look at one piece, and because if you look at one piece and not everything else, you don't get a great view.
Right. Because someone might think, well, yes, I know retirement's important, but I have kids that are starting school, or I'm trying to buy a house, or I just bought this house, you know, and you don't want to be house poor, put all your money into your house and not have any money for anything else. I mean, there's just student loans. There are so many things that people need to think about.
Yeah, and I think that goes into where we talked about the optimization and organization, because most of us, even though we're in a digital world, most of our finances are still on paper. We get, you know, people get stacks of paper at home from their financials. We set up their own personal digital dashboard so they can see everything in one place. So you got a crystal clear overview of what's there. So you can figure out, okay, I need to put money into retirement. I need to do 529s. Well, what's the percentage I can do in each? Or here's my mortgage payment, you know, over here. So I've got this. Well, what extra money do I have each month that I could do things? And the big part where that flows, especially here in Northern Virginia, we all live in cash flow. So you think there's a big bucket there where money's coming in, money's going out to pay for things. So the bucket's always getting filled, always getting emptied. If you put a couple holes in the bottom of the bucket, how much is left to kind of drain out? And that's where you really want to find things. You go, okay, I've got extra money every month and I've got some stuff to do. Okay, here's where I can do the other things. So you know where all of it's going. And some of our clients are want to be very draconian. They have a more engineering mindset. They want to track every penny, every dollar. Other clients we just kind of set up big categories. So they know, here's how much I have for a month in these couple of areas. And okay, I've exceeded it. Okay, what do I do now? Okay, well, next month we bring it back down. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But if you don't have a centralized view of it, it's hard to manage that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why people get scared about money, because they'll set whatever budget it is for themselves. They'll go over it for whatever reason. Maybe it's all necessary, and then they'll get upset and depressed and think they're not going to be able to save money. Because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, so I hear people talk about things like that. But I mean, I understand it. If I said, okay, I'm only going to spend X amount on groceries and X amount on this and X amount of that, if I go over it, I'm going to feel bad and upset. And then, just human nature, I think you're probably going to be less likely to stick with it in the future because you don't think you're going to be able to.
Yeah, and a good analogy is you think like at the gym, everybody at New Year's goes, I got to lose weight. I got to go to the gym. I got to work out. Gyms love January and February because everybody becomes a member. By March, I had to go and do that. It was hard. It was hard. It was onerous. It wasn't fun. I don't want to do it. And they stop. So that's why I think that the dashboard is simple because it's not like gigantic Excel spreadsheets that somebody has to look at. The backside of it is that we see, but the front side for our clients is not set up that way because just human nature. Hey, I see a graph. I can see a couple things. It's blue, green, colored. Okay, I'm doing good. Now, if they want to get into all the Excel spreadsheets and go deep, all the mathematics, fine. We can show that to them and they can have it. But most people don't. They want a quick glance and go, oh, I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and you put buffers in there so we know if you're going, I think I want to go have a steak dinner tonight, or I want to go, it's crab, it's spring's coming. I want to go to Maryland and have a crab feast or something.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel bad about it. It's a birthday. They want to buy birthday presents, or, hey, I need to go, get my car fixed, or, whatever it might be. Because we don't want to walk. We really want to strive so they don't have that end of the month kind of overspending dread.
Yeah,
that's that emotional part that's really hard. And if you have a plan in place, it kind of takes that away. And we stick around. We hold your plan. It's not a hi, you saw us today, you'll never see us again, we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
We stay there with them, and we usually meet with the clients 4 times a year on a quarterly basis, just to kind of walk through things. And, I had one today that it had nothing to do with money whatsoever. We sat and had a couple cups of coffee and we laughed for 2 hours. And
that's the person you mentioned before we went on live. Oh. You should give her a shout out if she's watching.
Lisa, how are you doing out there today? We're giving you a shout out. She's doing some really good stuff. So if you guys are in the collectives here in the area, go give Lisa Adams a shout out and go have a coffee with her. You will laugh. I will guarantee it.
I've never actually met Lisa in person.
Oh, Gene,
I haven't met you in person. Just
no, because we got caught with COVID.
I know. And that actually is another thing I wanted to bring up. If anybody that's watching or listening, if you're watching the replay, God knows when in the future, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, we are recording this in April of 2021. COVID is still here and going on. So that actually was going to lead me to something that I wanted to talk about. When COVID hit, I thought I was good at asking questions. People understandably panicked when COVID hit. A lot of people lost their jobs, industries that nobody ever thought were going to lose huge percentages of workers, laid off, restaurants, travel, hospitality, anything involving events. And then other industries, went up, and there are a lot of people that are hiring and a lot of people that are in need of employees, and other companies that are not. So if people were not, nobody was prepared for that. So how would you advise people to prepare for literally the unexpected? Nobody expected that. So what would you do? You think you're in a secure job, and then tomorrow you're not. What do you do?
So kind of think of, when you're building a house, you think of like 4 cornerstones. And that's kind of what we base our financial planning on. So if you have a very strong foundation, you can kind of weather the storms, right? So on the cash flow side, we also work on optimization of the money there. And the biggest thing of that is, how do you set up an emergency fund? And emergency funds can be different for different people because it's what you're going to be capable of building. You know, over time you build it. People that, and everybody hears that, people that set up emergency fund and lost their jobs, we're better than ones that didn't, because then they're not paycheck to paycheck. You know, get that part and really, really work to build that. So when things are coming back, that's one of the first things we make sure people build. So in event, you got your retirement funds, you got this, you have your emergency fund that you can go to, and you make sure that's invested in something that you can reach in and pull that money out quickly. So it wouldn't be mutual funds, because mutual funds aren't easy to get. They're not. And when we had COVID was this time, but you go back to 2008, then we had the mortgage crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2000, we had the tech bubble. So there's always something coming. Nobody necessarily knows what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that are doing really well in their portfolios and things right now, of course, afterwards they're going to tell you they were the smartest people in the world and they did a great job of it. But even the institutional people didn't know this was coming. They didn't. So that Amazon and the tech companies were huge last year, and now they're slowing down and things are evening them out. But something's, we all know something's going to come down the road. We don't know exactly what it is. So you prepare for that. And when you set your retirement funds and things up, you balance those as well. Think of this like your house, right? You've got a house, you make sure the roof is good in case you have a hailstorm like we did the other day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we know things are going to come. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, but you're prepared for it and you got emergency things in place for it.
So would you suggest, before I get to my next question, Sarah White. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Hey,
do you know Sarah?
Yeah.
Everybody knows Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Do you have to have a set amount of money to put back each month in order to work with an advisor? Oh, that's a good question.
Great question. So depends on the advisor. And it really does, because there's some advisors that won't touch you unless you have $1 million of investable assets, some even higher. I came to, out of a career before, I don't look at it that way, because there's a lot of people that have potential and could use a lot of help, that if we work with them on the plans, you know what, they're better off. And it's a win-win for both of us. I'm not grabbing the money and putting it over here going, I'm the smartest person in the world, I'm going to manage all your money for you. We do that, but that's not where we start.
Let me ask you a question to follow up on that, actually, because honestly, some people might not know. I don't completely know the answer to this. I'm familiar with the answer. Somebody comes to you. You set up a plan. You're going to do X, Y, Z, money in retirements, whatever it is. How do you get paid?
Great question.
Is it percentage? Do they pay you on an annual basis? How does that work?
So we typically get paid one of three ways. One, if somebody comes to us and they need a 529 or a product, and that's what we need. We know there's not going to be a long engagement. They're like, Mark, we need help. We need long-term care. Here's what we do. We'll go take a look at a couple of long-term care companies, because those are changing. Which one's the best for you? Give you a couple options and go, which one do you think it is? And we'll go place that, and that company will pay us percentage of what they place it. If we manage assets, you think the traditional financial advisor, we have it. We'll manage your assets for you when we're running the investments on there. Based on the size of those, because usually the bigger it is, the lower it is, because there's a volume set up there. And depending on what company we find for the money managers for you, because we try to find the best money managers out there for you. There's, anywhere from, 8 to 12,000 at any given time, depending on what the funds are. Which is the best ones for you on an overall basis? We'll get a percentage on that. They pay us, and that's like a month. That's a monthly, depending on the size and what it is. Where we focus in is really at another level is on financial planning, where we sit down and we're on a retainer for 1 year. And we put a full comprehensive financial plan for you. That's that roadmap for you. And you're able to take that roadmap and go anywhere you want with it to implement it. We talk don't talk about specific products in there. We're going to give you recommendations to do things, but you could pick that product up and go somewhere else and like fill in what are the Legos that I need to go in there from that.
Okay.
And
So
that runs anywhere from $850 up to $5,500. And it's based on how much time we think it's going to take. Because it's it goes anywhere from 20 to 60 hours based on complexity. And that's if we have a CPA involved, we've got state attorneys involved, those types of things that come into the plan.
Oh, okay. So for some people, forgive me if I missed this, but you literally work on everything. You set up retirement, you set them up with somebody that can do their end of life documents, long-term care, disability, life insurance, all of that.
We'll take care of the whole 9 yards for them. Yep.
Oh, well, that sounds like who would not do that? Mark, just take care of it for me.
Well, that's if you think like we're the outsourced your family CFO, that's really what we're doing for you. And we work with a couple different CPAs because different people's personalities are different. So which ones work well? We've got a couple of state attorneys we work with. Some have different personalities than others. It depends on the bedside manner on that one. It depends on the person because we want to make sure those personalities map up. But we'll sit in the middle and do all that coordination for you. And we go to those meetings with you so that you're not alone. So if you're having troubles asking the questions, we'll help ask those for you so that we get them down.
Because not everybody knows all the questions to ask.
Yeah. And I come at it personally from a little different angle. So my mom, when I was, about 10 years ago, we thought she was taken care of. She told us she was for years. And we found out by accident that she wasn't. Somebody at one of the banks put my name on one of her accounts. They never should have, but they did. I got her statements at home and I was curious. I looked through it and I went, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And so we went and found out that, she was in another state, so we didn't see her as often. We didn't realize how far dementia had happened. We just thought she was a little forgetful. And we looked at those statements, we realized there was something entirely different going on. So, we had to take over the accounts and manage things. But that's why we make sure we look at everything from a personal perspective. It's very personal for me on that one. And, my wife's father passed away when all his stuff wasn't taken care of. So both of us have had to settle estates that weren't documented properly. And
tell people what it is like to settle in a state that is not documented properly. They don't
understand
until you go through it, the nightmare that it is.
The nightmare, and because the states, depending on where they passed away, has a plan for them, whether you want that plan or not. And that plan is made for the state to win at the end of the day, not the person. You have to find all the documentation. You have to understand what it is. You have to get, if you don't have the documents aren't in place that you can represent those people, like my mom, all the documents weren't in place. We couldn't get a will and things in place because she could understand a power of attorney that she was giving me the rights to do it, but she couldn't understand how to do what a will would be. And just legally, we couldn't do it. And
you have to be of sound mind to create a will, for a will to be valid, I should say.
For a will to be valid. And she couldn't do it. And to find all the things that was missing that they didn't know and have to deal with the state is it's emotionally draining. I want to say it probably took 18 months of my life, literally, to do. And if we add in there the long-term care side of it that went in there and having to work with those people, because if long-term care, they're a warehouse for old people. Don't let anybody fool you that it's a warm and cozy, fuzzy thing. I mean, their job is to make money by keeping those people in there. And they'll tell you they're not going to drug them. They are, because they're not. I'll probably get in trouble for that one, but it's easier for them to have old people laying in bed than old people moving around. And it's sad, it's scary, and it's emotionally taxing. And when it's your parents and you found out all their money's gone, well, guess who's going to pay for it?
Mhm.
The kids. They are. And if you've got kids in college, you've got kids, older parents, you're kind of caught in the middle.
Mhm.
That's one of the things all of us are going to have to prepare for somehow or another, unless you don't have parents or you don't care for your parents. It's there. But the emotions on it, Gene, unless you're through it, the words are tough to describe it. It's, I mean, crap, we almost lost a marriage over it because it was so emotionally taxing for me because I was just a bear at home. I didn't have any other place to release it.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, it.
But on a positive note, I made sure I'm taken care of. I know who's pulling the plug.
Did you say you know who's pulling the plug? Is that what
Oh
you
yeah,
said?
we sat down, worked out with kids who's going to do what, who's where, how's it's going to go.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, because we know what something's going to happen. It's just and then how you want to have how you start, how you end, what you want to have in the middle. It's like, okay, once you've gone through it, you never want to go through that on your own, or you never want to put somebody through it.
And there are so many things that people don't think about. I mean, for example, you you write a will, you account for people in it, or you say, well, a good attorney wouldn't do this, but you say things like my kids, or but whatever. You have other kids after you write your will that aren't in there, or you get divorced, or you say to my wife, but you get divorced and you have a new wife, and then it's like, what do you do? Like, you have to update all of these documents. You have to plan for contingencies. If you say I leave everything to Tom, Dick, and Harry, but then Harry passes away by the time you're going through probate, then what happens to Harry? I mean, there's so many things that
Yeah, and how does it flow down? Well,
oh, I'm remembering a state class from law school, and then it would go to Harry's heirs. Oh my God, never mind. But there's so many things that if you don't plan for them, like you said a few minutes ago, the state will. The state will determine where your money is going to go. If you are separated and not divorced, everything goes to your spouse.
yeah, how's that get handled? And you have to look at because different states handle it differently.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into that because that's not what I do.
No, but that's a whole different
I'll
thing.
stop there.
But so that's a great topic because it's part of the financial planning too. What we do is every year while we're in there, we make sure that we set up in a calendar that goes out that we sit down and meet. Go, what's changed in this area?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If your kids are going to go to your friend because that's where you like, but now all of a sudden the next year's come around, you've got to fight with that friend. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, who's next? And they'll go, well, I don't have time to get around. Oh, yes, you do have time to get around of it. Let me just send you a couple clips from 66 because actually that works great because you send them a clip from 66, all the construction that's going down here and all the accidents that happen every day. Oh, it could happen. Some of them it jars the memory who don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. And of course, it never happens to anybody, right? And you've got, I'm sure you talk to the clients all the time. Well, of course, it wasn't going to happen to you.
Yep. Nobody thinks they're going to get in a car accident. Nobody thinks they're going to get, charged with a crime. I mean, very few people plan. Really plan to commit a crime, and we all think it's not going to happen. And I will tell you, because I am in court every day for years, and I see people in that court. I mean, it happens.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just because, you know what? They weren't planning. They just did a bonehead move.
Yeah. And that happens.
And that's not a great defense when you go, oops, I didn't know better.
Yep. Ignorance of the law is no defense.
So same thing with financials. You can't go, oh, I didn't know about that. Well, you should have.
Oh, God, now I feel terrible. Mark, you and I have to have a conversation after we're not live anymore. I got so much to do.
No, that's
as I say, not as I do.
But, the big thing is it's easy. I really try to make sure it's easy to have a conversation with me. That I don't want to make it complicated because Lord knows the industry makes it complicated enough that at the end of the day, you walk away and go, God, okay. I sat down, it was good, and we took care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, like you talked about bedside manner and being approachable. This will be the last thing before we start to wrap up, unless anybody else has any more questions, Sarah, or anybody watching, type them in the chat. I personally, it was pre-COVID. When was this? Maybe a year and a half ago. I think it was the time the Joker movie came. I remember because I didn't make the premiere of the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, because this guy, it was supposed to be a half-hour conversation, talked for 3 hours about life insurance. And you don't need to buy a house, you just need life insurance. And it was just such a terrible experience. I didn't want to talk to I'm serious. Like, I did not want to talk to a financial professional ever again, because that was my first experience and it was bad. I mean, yes, I know that I need life insurance, but this person is telling me, you don't need to buy a house. You don't need to do this. You know, put your loans in a forbearance, put money in life insurance. Clearly he was making money off selling life insurance, but it was a very bad experience.
They give them a bad name. They do. I mean, life insurance, it's a tool and you could use it multiple different ways. But that's
which is another thing that I learned, which could be a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it depends on that individual situation where it works. It's not a cure-all for everything. And some of the big insurance companies, their life insurance cures everything. Well, no, it doesn't. It's a tool, and it might be the right tool for one situation. It might not be for the other. You know, I mean, we could talk about estate planning and things like that with using life insurance to pay taxes, but that's for a different day.
We should do this again, because I say this with some of my best guests that I asked to come back on in the future, like Sarah White, who's been on multiple times. But there's so much to talk about. We definitely could go into more specifics. The thing with life insurance, my understanding is life insurance is meant to replace the income that you would have made for X number of years. They have to value how long you would have continued to live, all those things. It doesn't cover everything.
It doesn't, and I'll be real brief on it. So life insurance typically is a lost income replacement tool.
Right.
It can also be, depending on the situation, and it really depends on the situation. They've changed. If you've seen, long-term care insurance is going through the roof at most of the states. The cost of it's going through the roof. There isn't a buffer on it. So down the road, what you pay for a long-term care policy today will probably be much more expensive later. Where you can use some types of life insurance if it's got a provision in it. It could be basically what it does. It takes the death benefit and it pays it out while you're alive to cover health, or if you're critical illness or long-term care types things. But not all of it does it. Only some of them do it, and it is more expensive. So it's a cost benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And some people would say, put your money in life insurance because it's a great investment. Well, is it really? No. For some people it might be, but as a whole, not for everybody.
Yeah.
You invested in everything else. Yeah, life insurance is a great tool to put some money away from taxes. If we change tax laws in the next couple of months, it could be a great thing to pass money to the next generation. So you use life insurance to pay taxes, on estate taxes. So if estates come down, estate tax comes down from 14 million down lower where the threshold is. Yeah, life insurance might be a generational wealth transfer. But that's based on a whole plan where you look at everything and go, does this make sense for that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't just roll it out like a fire hose and go, okay, everybody gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get a car. Everybody gets a car.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions that I wanted to get to. David Hillison, sorry, if you guys regularly watch the show, and I have a cataract in one eye, so I have to lean in like this to see the comments. And if you're listening to the podcast, I look ridiculous right now. So David Hillison asks, do you typically look at rebalancing? I'm already lost. Based upon time periods, market changes, growth targets, etc., with an exclamation point and 2 question marks, and how much diversification is too much? Oh God, that sounds like a long answer. Actually,
this is when the terminology industry can be complicated. The terminology industry. So for David's question, how often should you rebalance your portfolio and how broad should your portfolio be? Well, you want to rebalance your portfolio based on the situation, at least on an annual basis. Some people, it's more than that based on, how many things they have in there. And when you think somebody has a 60-40 portfolio, 60% in equities, maybe 40 in bonds, to try to keep those percentages of when you set up a portfolio in the same thing, because there's drift. It's kind of like sands on the beach. The weather comes in and it moves the sandbar down. So your portfolio may go from, look like a 60-40 or whatever the percentages are, 60-40, and all of a sudden it might become like, it shifts. So you want to rebalance that so your risk of reward models stay the same.
Okay, that makes sense.
And how diversified you are, that really depends on the person and the situation, because diversification means lots of different things, and we could spend a whole conversation on that too. But the key thing is what's the client's real risk? And it's, are you somebody that rides a roller coaster and likes to fly in plane, or are you somebody that, has claustrophobia, that's a little safer? Then you can look at how diversified somebody is and what they're diversified into. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time on that one.
Yeah, Mark, you're definitely going to have to come back. And then I could tell everybody that I actually did meet with you and made a financial plan, because oh my God, if something happens to me, oh my God. Sarah White, what makes a good client fit for Mark? Not just anyone, but who is a really good fit?
Oh, great. Sarah, thank you. That's a good one.
That was a very good question, because it's a question we're all asking ourselves about who our ideal client is.
So we kind of have a rule of no knuckleheads allowed, and people.
Oh, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, somebody who you personally don't get along with. If you don't personally going to get along with them the first time you meet, and we've all been doing this for a while in our own businesses. You meet somebody right away, you kind of have an idea whether you want to work with them or not, and then you got to roll up your sleeves and go, okay, we know we want to work together. Now we got to roll up your sleeves and figure out how to do it. So for me, the first thing I usually look at is there a personality fit? Because if I'm personally not going to get along with them, and I don't think my team is, I don't care how much money they have. I don't want to bring them in the door.
Yeah,
because they're going to be a bigger headache than we will ever want. And I would much rather sit and do a plan for somebody. And it sounds counterintuitive from a business perspective, but in the long run, it isn't. I'd rather have somebody I really like to come in and do a small plan for, and I know they're happy and successful, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to tell somebody else that, hey, Mark really took care of me. And you never know when you start looking at those rings of fears that come out of who they're going to know that they might refer to me. And I'd rather help people that I know, work with people I know I can help, than some big power attorney that comes in DC that makes $3 million a year and goes, Mark, I want to bring all my money to you. Well, why do you want to bring it to me? What's going on? How can I help you? Or a good example, I had one client that wanted to be all in the stock market, but what they wanted to be in and what was good for them were two different things. And we had a conversation about it, and they didn't want to listen. So, if they want my expert advice, I really want that person to listen. It's, I think it would be like your clients. If you bring somebody in that was convicted of a crime and you were going to, work with them, but they didn't want to listen to your counsel, you don't want them.
No, I don't. I can't do my job if they don't listen to my advice. And if you don't think my advice is worth listening to, then don't hire me.
Yeah. And, that's why we have that first meeting where you don't bring anything in.
Yeah.
We want to figure out, is it a personal fit? Is it a business fit? And is it a long-term fit? Are they listening to counsel? Do they use other experts? Because at the end of the day, we hope they value outsourcing to experts, that they know, okay, they work with CPAs, they work with attorneys, they're running a business and they're going to call Sarah and go, God, I'm starting a restaurant. I don't have the first thing I know about it, but I want to do it. Well, that's why you'd call Sarah, so your restaurant's successful before the door's open.
You beat me to the shout out. I was going to say Sarah White is your white knight. She is a restaurant consultant. And at one point I gave her a really great introduction, but now I can't remember exactly what it was. But if your restaurant is in trouble or you just want to improve, because who doesn't want to improve, call Sarah White. or go to Lost Dog Cafe and eat one of the many punny named pizzas, which I absolutely love the name of the pizzas. They're hilarious.
I know, they're delicious.
I haven't had it yet.
Oh, well, we got to go for a beer over there then. Oh my gosh, you go to McLean, the one, because Sarah, I think Sarah works out of the McLean one most of the time.
Dunloring. Sarah, if you're still watching, it's the Dunloring one, I think.
Okay, because I know I caught up with her pre-COVID over at, I didn't know it at the time, but over McLean.
Oh, okay. Well, Sarah, we're going to all have to go out and get pizza when you're not doing any of the million things that you're busy doing. And also, just a little tease, in a few weeks, Sarah is going to be back on the show because in addition to April being National Financial Literacy Month, which is why Mark is here, it's also National Humor Month. So Sarah and I are going to be trying to make each other laugh with dad jokes.
No.
And I'll tell you my favorite one. Sarah already knows, so I'm not spoiling it. So, I mean, obviously we can look it up on the computer, but we're going to both be trying to find ones that the other person doesn't know. Here's my favorite one. Sarah knows. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know.
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Okay. So my visual, I'm going to see you and Sarah doing this, and it's going to be like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg going at it. Video. Oh, they do some funny jokes like this.
Oh, I need to look that up because I haven't seen them doing that.
Oh, it's funny. So.
Oh, you know what? I did, and I thought they were drunk or something. I was like, "What is this?" I saw one video. I think they were promoting a movie.
Yeah, they usually do it when they're promoting something and they're on there.
Sarah said both are my locations, so McLean and Dunloring.
Oh, McLean's, because we used to go, because I coached lacrosse in McLean for years. We used to go over there afterwards and, take kids, or, the coaches would go have a beer and go to a fun place.
And they have a patio, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's nice weather, so we can, sit outside. And I know that Sarah takes very good care of her restaurants, and everything is up to par with all the COVID restrictions. I don't even know what those are anymore. Either way, we're all going. But before we sign off for the day, and Mark, I have to have you back because there's so many other things. Hopefully you want to come back. There's so many other things I want to talk about.
It's fun. I'd love to come back.
Is there anything else that you just want to leave everybody with? We have some people that have stayed on the whole time, so they've heard the whole conversation, and I know Sarah White's still there. So, is there anything you want to leave us all with?
The big thing I would say for folks is, if you haven't sat down with a financial planner, sit down. It's probably going to be some of the best money you've ever spent, because it puts that roadmap in place for you, and it's easy. It's not a long, drawn-out process. It's 3 to 4 weeks at the most, with 5 or 6 meetings, and all of a sudden you go, okay. And at the end, you should walk away feeling comfortable what you're going to be doing down the road, and you can go, oh, okay, I got it together. At least I have a plan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's dynamic.
So that if the unpredictable happens again, you've got a plan in place.
Yeah. And the thing to ask folks is, how comfortable are they with their financials as they sit today? And if you're not comfortable, come have a conversation with us.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the worst that can happen? You learn something, and you walk away and go, oh, okay, I can go do that.
No one's going to say they're completely 100% comfortable, even if you have things in place.
No,
because just because of everything that's gone on. So everybody can, take a step back and think about that. Are you comfortable with where you are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's my kind of takeaway.
Oh, I think we lost Mark.
I'm still here.
Are you there? Oh, good.
It's the rain.
It is the rain. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know looking, but it's so nasty outside. I have a ring light behind me, which makes me look decent. So,
you can mind if I go like this, you can see it right there.
Oh yeah. So one other thing that I am really bad about doing, I should have done this in the beginning. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you're seeing it on YouTube, please subscribe so you can get notifications for future videos. If you're watching on Facebook, like and follow my Facebook page. So again, you get notifications when I go live and have great guests like Mark. And if you are listening to the podcast, subscribe, which does not cost money. Footnote, I recently learned that a lot of people think subscribe means they have to pay for it. So that social media is going to be transitioning to using the term follow for everything. So whoopsies, follow me on everything. Leave a review if you liked what you heard and saw. And Mark, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all next time.
Thanks a lot. Have a great evening. Take
Bye.
care.